Mezhgorje, tucked away in Russia's majestic Ural Mountains, is Mezhgorje, a city that is not only off the map, but also shrouded in absolute silence. Built in the 1980s, during the Soviet Union's Cold War years, it is heavily guarded and completely off limits to outsiders. The Russian government has never given a clear explanation. Sometimes it is called a mining station, sometimes a food storage facility, and sometimes it is said to be an emergency shelter in case of an apocalypse. Mezhgorje sits at the foot of Mount Yamantau, the highest peak in the southern Urals, providing natural cover from airstrikes. But here's the thing. The structure continued to expand even after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Western intelligence agencies believe that beneath the mountain lies an underground military command center, capable of operating in the event of a nuclear war. Satellite images show roads, houses, and many permanent structures. But no one knows what lies beneath the rock. Access to the city requires special permission, which is almost never granted. Even government officials are denied access. A city that lives, but never existed in the eyes of the world. Kalaupapa, amid the rough waters of the Hawaiian Islands, where sheer cliffs separate the mainland from the outside world, there is a place once declared a dead zone by the government, Kalaupapa. Between 1866 and 1969, more than 8,000 people with leprosy were forcibly brought here. No farewells, no goodbyes. They were dumped on the deserted beach and left to fend for themselves, dead even though they were still alive. No one was allowed to leave. Families were not allowed to visit. They were declared legally dead. Into this desperation came a Belgian priest named Father Damien. He lived with them, cared for them, and then contracted the disease himself, dying on this very land in 1889. It was not until the late 1960s, when medical science improved, that the separation policy was lifted, but many residents never left. It was the only place they considered home. Today, Kalaupapa is a national historical park, strictly off limits, as if the memories and pain here can never be forgotten. Pine Gap, located in the Australian outback, 18 kilometers southwest of Alice Springs, Pine Gap doesn't appear on tourist maps. It exists only in top-secret intelligence reports. Surrounded by an 8,000-volt electric fence and guarded by more than 80 armed police, it is one of the world's most secretive spy bases. With 38 giant spherical satellite antennas, Pine Gap acts as the eye of the Five Eyes program, silently monitoring calls, signals, and military targets from Russia, China, and the Middle East. Even most Australian government officials are kept in the dark about exactly what goes on inside. Photography is strictly forbidden. All public tours have been suspended since September 11th. On the other side of the world, deep underground in Pennsylvania, USA, is Iron Mountain, an underground fortress converted from a former limestone mine. Inside is a top-secret archive containing historical photographs, original recordings, legal data, and sensitive documents from major companies. The temperature is controlled by an artificial lake. No one knows exactly what is stored here, and that is also why it is considered one of the safest survival safes on the planet. Fort Knox, in northern Kentucky, amid isolated forests and barbed wire, a giant granite monolith looms. Fort Knox, the U.S. Gold Reserve. Built in 1936 during the Great Depression, it is not only a symbol of wealth, but also the very definition of untouchable. Inside it are some 147 million ounces of gold bullion, worth hundreds of billions of dollars, nearly half of the nation's gold reserves. The entrance is protected by tons of steel, state-of-the-art electronic sensors, and armed guards stationed 24/7. The codes to open the vault are shared among several people, and no one is allowed to enter alone. Fort Knox is virtually impregnable, and no one is allowed to visit. No visitors have set foot inside since World War II. The last time the media was allowed access was in 1974, but they were only given a brief glimpse, as if the government wanted to remind them, there are doors that will never open. McMurdo Dry Valley. Deep in Antarctica's Victoria region, the McMurdo Dry Valleys are where winds howl at more than 200 miles per hour, wiping out all traces of life. Without snow or rain for more than 2 million years, this is the largest ice-free region in Antarctica and a place completely off limits to the rest of the world. The landscape is so desolate that NASA has dubbed it Mars on Earth, using it to test equipment for missions to distant planets. In the minus 50 degrees Celsius cold, iron blood flows from the Earth in fiery red waterfalls. Glacial lakes don't melt, rocks move on their own, and bacteria live silently in the soil, a telltale sign of alien life. No one is allowed in without a permit. Only researchers with approved projects, medical checks, and survival training can set foot here. They arrive by military plane, and even a single footprint. It can last for decades. Hashima Island. Off the coast of Nagasaki, Japan, a dark silhouette rises from the sea. Hashima Island, also known as Gunkanjima, Battleship Island. The name comes from the island's shape, which, when viewed from afar, resembles a battleship anchored in the ocean. Once home to more than 5,000 workers and their families, Hashima was a symbol of post-war industrial development, with high-rise concrete apartments crammed into tiny spaces. But then, in 1974, coal mining operations ended. Residents left after just a few months, leaving everything behind, from rusting machinery to unwashed dishes. Stairs lead into empty spaces. Walls are cracked and covered in moss. A ghost town that has been slowly crumbling under typhoons for nearly half a century. Due to the harsh weather conditions and the risk of collapse, access to the island has been off limits for decades. A small section has recently reopened for guided tours, but visitors are only allowed to walk along a narrow path and view Hashima from a distance. The settlements, mines, and most of the ruins remain completely sealed off. Even guides must adhere to strict safety regulations. Hashima, once a vibrant place, is now the deadliest, most desolate, and most restricted place in Japan. Weather Mountain. Nestled in the lush Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, Weather Mountain is a place most Americans have never heard of. From the outside, it looks like a regular government office, but underneath lies a Cold War-era nuclear fortress where the U.S. government could survive the apocalypse. It is a top-secret emergency command center where the president, Congress, and other top officials could retreat and run the country from underground if a nuclear attack wiped out everything above ground. The bunker, buried deep inside the mountain, is strong enough to withstand a direct nuclear blast. Inside, there is all the infrastructure for long-term survival: sleeping quarters, conference rooms, communication systems, a separate power plant, water supply, and air filtration system. Everything is designed to operate independently for months without having to leave. There are no tours, no clear satellite imagery, and no one knows exactly how this place works. Mount Weather doesn't appear on tourist maps, but if the world collapsed tomorrow, it would probably be the last place with light. Nicosia Buffer Zone. In the heart of the capital city of Nicosia, Cyprus, lies a 4.2-kilometer stretch of land with no people, no future, and no way out. It is the Nicosia Buffer Zone, or Green Line, a United Nations-controlled area since 1974, when Turkish troops landed on the island and sparked a bloody civil war between the Greek and Turkish communities. A belated ceasefire was signed, and when it did, the Green Berets stepped in. But they could not restore the city's integrity. Since then, Nicosia has become Europe's only divided capital. The buffer zone stretches 111 miles across the island, but nowhere is it more evident or haunting than in Nicosia, where crumbling streets, crumbling houses, and rusting cars lie like fossils of war. Bullet holes still mark the walls, and weeds grow through the cracked concrete on the sidewalks. No one is allowed in. The road is blocked by barbed wire, guard towers, and warning signs in multiple languages. Despite decades of peace talks, the scars have not healed. In the silence, nature slowly returns, as if only animals are allowed to live between two hostile forces. Rathfulingdales, set amid the wild grasslands of the North York Moors in England, is a pyramid not fit for kings, but for war. It is the Royal Air Force, ERAF, Fylingdales, one of the most iconic and secretive military installations in Britain. The pyramid-shaped radar structure can be seen for miles around, rising above the countryside like a lookout for the skies. But despite its obvious presence, it is out of reach. RAF Fylingdales operates as part of a global missile warning network, with stations in Greenland and Alaska that can detect a nuclear attack within minutes. Every second here is a silent vigil. Beneath the concrete are missile tracking systems, ultra-high-frequency radars, and protocols for triggering a red alert if a threat is detected. In recent years, the situation has become increasingly tense. In 2024, the emergence of drones forced the Royal Air Force to deploy F-15s to intervene. Since then, the exclusion zone has been expanded. Although radar is still visible from public roads, the entire area is off-limits. A pyramid with no historical aura is the corrugated iron structure of the modern world. Mary of Zion. In the city of Axum, once the center of ancient Ethiopian civilization, an ancient church stands tall against the African sun and wind, the Church of Our Lady of Zion. It is believed that within the church's thick, heavily guarded stone walls lies the Ark of the Covenant, the sacred chest containing the 10 Commandments given to Moses by God himself. But, for more than 3,000 years, no one, not popes, kings, or scholars, has been allowed to see it, except for one person. A chosen monk, a lifelong hermit never leaving the church grounds, praying and burning incense before the sacred chest every day. When he feels death approaching, he hands over his responsibilities to his successor, in silence and darkness. The door to the Ark of the Covenant remains locked, and the truth about the greatest relic in human history, whether real or mythical, remains in the hands of only one person: Coca-Cola. In the heart of Atlanta, Georgia, in the heart of a bustling city, there is a room that no one is allowed to enter. Deep inside the World of Coca-Cola Museum, it is said that this is where the original formula for the world's most famous soft drink is kept. Invented by pharmacist John Pemberton in 1886, the formula has made billions of dollars and become a global icon. But for more than 135 years, the secret has remained hidden. Only a handful of people in the world know the full formula, and they are absolutely not allowed to fly on the same plane, to avoid the risk of losing it all in a crash. The formula is kept in a high-tech safe that requires multiple layers of security to open. Even high-ranking employees are not allowed access. For Coca-Cola, this secret is more than just a piece of history. It's a brand strategy. In a world rife with counterfeits and copycats, the Coca-Cola formula remains one of America's most closely guarded trade secrets.